Can you use dynamic text to update these KPIs? Let's hop into this week's Workout Wednesday challenge. In this week, we want to update these KPIs or metrics about our email marketing campaign based on what email campaign is selected. Let's hop into the workbook. You can see here that I have the HubSpot email campaign table already in my workbook. If you need to add it, click the plus sign to add element and then navigate to the Sigma sample database applications in HubSpot. I've also only included the columns that we're going to be using today. There's a lot of columns in there, so I just unchecked them or deleted them. In this week, we're going to be creating summary KPIs or summary calculations. Table summaries are like creating a grouping at your entire table level. So for example, instead of asking what is the campaign KPI for this line versus this line and using the grouping section, we want to create a group for our entire table. This is down in the summary section of your table. To add a summary, click this upward facing arrow and then click this plus sign to add a new calculation. We're going to choose the total unique opens to show you how it creates something. Here we can see that this is creating a grand total or the sum of all of our total unique opens. But for our metric, we want to divide that by the total deliveries. So what I'm going to do is tack on an additional calculation to this by saying divide and then sum and total deliveries. I know that we want to figure out a way to handle the null values in the denominator, just in case there's anything that might be unexpected or not filled out. To handle null values in Sigma, I like to use the ZN calculation, which will just replace any null values with a 0. Here we can see our calc is listed here, and this is representing this percentage of open rate for everything in our table. I'm going to rename this to be open rate, so just selecting this and copy and pasting the title in. To rename something, I come to my table summary and double click into it and just paste in the name. You can also use the downward facing arrow and choose to rename the column. I know this is going to be a percentage and that we don't want to show any decimals, so I'm just going to do that right away. We'll click format and the percentage and then decrease the decimals. One thing that you might have noticed as we were creating this calculation was that the open rate did not appear in my column list over here. This is important to understand the distinction between a metric that we've seen in previous Workout Wednesdays and a table summary. A metric is going to live on the data source and you predefine the aggregation for it, so Sigma knows how it's supposed to treat the numbers or the underlying rows. Whereas in a table summary, you don't have to use an aggregation technically in order to create these. So there's a little bit more flexibility and they don't transfer outside of this workbook. A table summary is going to be available in any child element, but only at that value. It's not going to be able to be reused or re-aggregated in the same way that a metrics will be. Now we just need to add the rest of these calculations and we're going to apply them or do them in the same way. So I'm going to actually scroll down to where I've created these table summaries already. So we can see that I have my click to open rate, which is the same calculation of sum and the ZN sum, my click-through rate, and my bounce rate. We can also see that in the instructions, there was an option to create a bounce rate performance calculation. Let's take a look at this one that I've already added. One of the cool things about table summaries is that even though they aren't added into our list of columns, we can still reference them the same way we reference other columns within our element. So here we can see that we're looking at this bounce rate and then applying a bunch of if criteria to it. This is basically just saying if it's within a certain range, we want to apply a certain name or title or categorization for it. Now that we have these calculations built, let's work through creating our dynamic text. To add those, I'm going to come to the plus sign, select text, and pull that in. We want to create a headline that will include the email campaign name and the email campaign subtype. So let's first tackle the email campaign name. We can see here that Sigma is giving us a hint on how we need to pull in that information. So I'm going to click equal. And then I like to just click on the column because it's the easiest way to pull in this calculation or this specific value into here. we can see that Sigma is pulling in the name of the element as well as the name of the column. We'll click Save. And now Sigma returned a null value. And that's because we have multiple values in our email campaign name. So what we need to do is apply a filter so that an individual can select a specific email campaign and it'll return that name. To add that, I'm going to click the downward facing arrow on the email campaign name, click Filter, and then I'm going to click this 3 dots and convert to a page control. This way, it'll be available for end users to select. I see down here that there's some criteria for this control element, so I'm going to make sure to apply that now. We do not want to allow multiple selection. That's, again, why the null value is being shown. We don't want anyone to show a null option or a null campaign. We do want to keep the clear box, and we do want to show the search box, so we're going to remove the histogram. So when I click in here and I select this option, we can see that our title or our text updates as well as our table updates. Next, we're going to basically do the same thing to add the email campaign subtype. So what I'm going to do is click into that same text element, click space, click equal, and then I'm going to again select the email campaign subtype. You can also type in these values, just do bracket and then start typing the element name, and then Sigma will help you select the correct one. I'm going to click save. All right. So I know that there is additional text in here, and I'm going to pop back to the first page just to remember what it should be. We'll copy and paste this. Here, I'm going to select into this element and then just use my left arrows a bunch of times to get to the beginning of it. I'm going to paste that in there and add a space. And this is super cool, in my opinion, that Sigma lets you edit this on the fly. You don't have to create a concatenation in order to add all of the information that you want. So next, I'm going to just quickly add the dash for that one, and then go back here and add space and the rest of the sentence. So now we have the full sentence, and it'll update based on whatever campaign we have selected. Let me go back here and see if there's anything else. Nope. Next, we want to add the rest of the KPIs. So I'm going to go back to here. Since these are going to be formatted differently, I like to keep them in different elements. You don't have to. We can just delete all of that text, and then we're going to do the open rate first. So we're going to click equal, scroll down to where I have my open rate, select that, clicking enter. Again, you can press the green check mark. Then we'll do open rate, and I'm just going to type out the titles to each of these first. Click open rate, click through rate, and bounce rate. All right, so then I'm going to come to each line, press space, equal, select the value that I want to show, and repeat. And if I remember correctly, we also want to show this in parentheses. There we go. Let's go back, make sure we have everything. Bounce rate. Yep. So then I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to just do Command or Control and A for all, and then apply the bullet list. All right, looks like the last thing we need to do is add the titles in here. You can add the coloring in here. I'm not going to, just for the sake of time on a video, but I would definitely recommend doing that. So it looks like we have everything in here. Just going to select this for formatting, medium heading for the headline type. Right now we're at medium paragraph, so just going to medium heading. Large paragraph for each of these. And then I'm going to select everything and move to a new page. Kind of reformat things so make it easier for folks to see it. And make that bigger. Let's select some of these and we can see that our values are updating. I hope you enjoyed this week's challenge. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.